Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Today, we're tackling something huge, something really significant, not just in history, but for anyone looking to really get international relations, especially, well, especially for those UPSC exams out there. We're going deep on 9/11.
Absolutely. A day that, who could forget where they were? But this isn't just about remembering, right? We're going to unpack the impact on, well, everything. Global security, geopolitics, all of it.
We're using an excerpt, by the way, really focusing on 9/11 and how how it kind of changed international relations.
Fascinating stuff.
So, it's been over 2 decades, but 9/11, it's right there, right? You see those images. Twin Towers, the Pentagon.
Pennsylvania, that fourth plane.
Yeah, the human cost, too. Almost 3,000 lives.
And each target, think about it. They were chosen, deliberate, like a symbol. American economic power, military might just targeted.
And it was Al-Qaeda, right? Back then, not exactly a household name.
Yeah.
That they could pull this off. That really showed a whole different kind of threat.
Exactly. And a threat not like, a traditional war. This was something else.
This is where it gets really interesting, I think, for anyone studying international relations, right? Like 9/11, it's seen as like the turning point, that end of like the post-Cold War world. We thought everything was, safe and optimistic.
And then, bam, globalization, which we thought was all good, suddenly has this dark side.
And the U.S. even, like the superpower, not immune.
Nobody was. It was this vulnerability that just, I think, it really shook everyone.
So it wasn't just the attacks themselves, but this feeling, this underlying, like, fear almost.
Exactly. 9/11 showed us just how connected we all are. Good and bad, right? But especially that these non-state actors, these terrorist groups, they could do this on a global scale.
Something I think nobody really saw coming.
No.
So there's this idea, right, that 9/11 brought about this, like, clash of civilizations, West versus the Islamic world. But how much of that holds up, really?
That's the question, isn't it? And it's one I bet you might even get on those UPSC exams, right? But it's a complex thing. Sure, the idea got popular, clash of civilizations, but it's too simple,
Yeah.
It reduces it all down to religion when 9/11, it was way more complicated than
So
that.
saying it was just religion, that's like missing a big part of the picture.
Absolutely. And it leads to another way of looking at it, which is, think about this. Maybe 9/11 wasn't some radical change. Maybe it was a return going back to this like state-centric security, like the state is everything again.
Okay, interesting. So not a total break from the past, but like swinging back to something familiar.
Yeah, and that's key for understanding how international relations changed after.
So are you saying 9/11, instead of changing everything, it maybe just made the state like more important on the world stage?
Exactly. Look at the U.S., right? Huge increase in military spending. The wars, Afghanistan, Iraq. The whole Department of Homeland Security created, right? All that points to the state saying, we're back in charge and security is number one.
And that wasn't just the U.S., right?
Yeah.
Other countries did the same thing.
Oh, absolutely. It was a trend. Suddenly, everywhere, governments were prioritizing national security. And sometimes that meant, well, maybe individual liberties took a hit. All those debates we have now about surveillance, privacy, that's part of what came out of that shift.
And this is where it gets real, especially if you're, thinking about those UPSC exams.
Yeah.
What does this mean for you, the listener? Like, how does 9/11 connect to everything else in international relations?
Right. It's not just a history lesson, is it? It's about understanding how the world works now. All the ripples from that day, they're still going. Politics, security, even stuff happening inside countries.
So you're saying it's like this bridge between like what happened then and what's going on in current events, something the UPSC folks got to know.
Exactly. Think about it. Terrorism, the wars, all the debates about, like, can the government watch everything we do? Those are all because of 9/11. Real work stuff, how countries talk to each other, how money moves around, even just daily life.
So for the UPSC, 9/11 is like the perfect example of how one event, boom, changes everything on the world stage.
A case study, right.
Like how global politics all fits together. How do you keep things safe in a world where, well, everything's globalized?
Yeah.
And those tough choices, security versus freedom, all that.
It's all about connections, right? How did 9/11 shift who has power? What about, like, the West and the Islamic world? How'd that change? What new security problems popped up, and how did everyone react?
Big questions, for sure. No wonder the UPSC loves asking about this. But it's not just about passing a test, is it?
No way.
It's like every citizen should be thinking about this stuff.
Totally. Understanding the forces that are, like, shaping the world. Thinking critically. Because history, it's not just in the past, right? It's making the present, and it's going to make the future, too.
So let's pretend, right, we're taking the UPSC, and there's that question, the classic. Did 9/11 really change the world, or was it just speeding up stuff that was already happening?
Yeah.
How do we answer that?
Ooh, that's the one, isn't it? And there's no easy answer. It's not just yes or no. On the one hand, yeah, 9/11 was huge. It was like, okay, the Cold War's over. We're all safe. That was an illusion. And global politics totally shifted
The
after.
whole war on terror, right?
Yeah.
People argue about that a lot, but it definitely changed how countries act, how they fight, even policies here at home. Afghanistan, Iraq, all the surveillance, borders getting tighter. That's all post 9/11 thinking.
But then you could say, hang on, some of this stuff was already happening, just slower. Non-state actors getting powerful, the idea of countries being in charge, like, is that even real anymore? The world getting more and more connected. All that was before 9/11. What the attacks did was, like, hit the gas pedal, made everyone pay attention, and forced governments to deal with it, like, right now.
So it was a catalyst. Like, it took what was simmering and bam, brought it to a boil.
Yeah.
Made everyone see that, hey, in a globalized world, the danger can come from anywhere, and borders don't stop it.
Exactly. And that's the kind of thinking. That's what those UPSC examiners, they love to see that. It shows you get international relations, you can see different sides, and you can connect the past to what's happening now.
And there's so much out there, right? I mean, if you really want to go deep, there are books, documentaries. You can even find, like, scholarly articles, people who were there, their stories. It's all out there.
And don't just read one thing, right? Get different views.
Exactly.
And it's not just about, like, taking it all in. Think about it. Question stuff. Look at the evidence and, what do you think? That's how you really learn. That's what makes you stand out, whether it's for the UPSC or just, for yourself.
So we're wrapping up here.
Yeah.
Big topic, 9/11. What's the one thing you want folks to remember? Like, if they take away just one idea, what should it be?
That's tough. But I'd say this. 9/11, yeah, it was awful, a tragedy. But it's like this way of seeing the world better, the 21st century, how messy it is. Like, we're all connected more than we think. And security, freedom, those two, they're always pushing and pulling on each other. And history, it's not over. It's still shaping us.
Makes you think. Yeah. It was huge that day, but world kept going, right? We've got new problems now, new technology, new, like, who's in charge is all shifting.
And that's what makes studying this stuff, history, international relations, it's never boring. It's always changing. 9/11, it's still playing out, It's up to us to look at it closely, learn from it, and try to understand the world, like really understand it.
Well said. So big thanks to everyone for diving deep with us on 9/11. Hope it got you thinking, maybe even wanting to learn more. And for all those UPSC folks out there, hope this gave you some good ammo for those exams.
Knowledge is power, right? Especially when it comes to this stuff. Global affairs, it's complicated. So keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself. And don't forget, subscribe to The Deep Dive. We've got more awesome topics coming your way. See you on the next one.